What's up, everyone? We are doing a Chic Fil A mukbang. Now, for my subscribers, you're probably wondering what the heck is a mukbang? Well, it's something that's gone pretty viral. It's a trend on YouTube. It's been viral for a while now. I've been slowly observing all these YouTube trends. And yes, I put it in the title because of the search traffic. Now, what is it? Well, basically, you get some type of food, and Chic Fil A seems to be a huge trend right now. You buy this, and then you eat it in front of people, and you eat a lot of it. And apparently people get off on watching you, or for whatever reason, people get millions of views just watching others eat food. Now, this started as a Japanese Asian type trend where people would just like slip on noodles and eat mainly Asian foods, but it's kind of just like exploded into the modern world because I'm guessing Western people, specifically people on YouTube who just wanted a lot of views, started trying to convert it because they don't eat Asian food, and now it's somehow caught on. Now, this is also a trend there's also a lot of related trends that are going on that kind of converge to make this such a huge thing. Another big one would be Dietrich's, who's another big YouTuber who has, for a while now, many years, he pretty much buys like every single item from a fast food joint, and then he gets all his friends together and then he eats it, and then he makes the title like something very clickbaity, like 500 KFC chicken wings all in one sitting. And it's highly unhealthy, which is why I only decided to eat this much. You know, I could go all out, and for most of my life I've been known to be the guy who can eat like 5 times as much as anyone else and remain skinny. And people have always told me, like, where does it all go? How are you still skinny? How do you eat so much? And I hear it like every single day. But lately, since this is a personal development channel, I know how important health and fitness is, and I just don't think it's right to do that. Plus, you know, as I'm aging, I know my metabolism will slow. If you've seen any of these like big actors, especially a lot of the science fiction people, the sci-fi actors like Mark Hamill, or that guy from Star Trek. His name's Kirk something, Captain Kirk. That guy, he kind of blew up afterwards, and so your metabolism does slow when you age. So you have to focus on energy, fitness, all those things. Now, this is not going to be an average mukbang. In fact, I don't think it's going to be like anything you've ever experienced. This is not going to be a normal mukbang. And the reason for that is because this is a personal development and business YouTube channel. And so Chic Fil A is not just a restaurant to me. Chic Fil A has a lot of culture, childhood memories, and so forth. But also, it means a lot to me because I know the story behind it. And that's something that you could probably ask any of the 5 billion, 6 billion, however many billion people are on this earth. I think it's 7 billion, but you can ask 99% of them and they won't know much about why Chic Fil A succeeded, who founded it, and the story behind this guy. And that's a tragedy to me because he's not only made more money than 99.999% of people. He died with over $2 billion in net worth. But he was really religious. He let his competitors work one day every week and get ahead of him while he closed down his stores every Sunday. And that was because he was religious. And he wrote many books on how he succeeded, none of which ever get marketed, none of which you ever hear in any top 10 business list. Instead, you get, you know, whatever business or personal development book list you read, it's usually books that are well marketed or just like everyone knows about them, like 4-Hour Work Week, E-Myth, etc., etc. And I'm not saying they're bad books, but it's kind of weird how that works. He wrote these books simply to help you guys out. It's literally on how you can succeed as well. Look at the title. It's easier to succeed than to fail by S Truett Cathy. I mean, it's a bit of a tragedy that no one reads these books by billionaires, and there's a lot of them out there. And they'll read like these random books like, I don't know, E-Myth, or I don't know, The Pumpkin Plan, or this or that. There's so many, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, shit, the people on Shark Tank wrote a book and they made it popular. Gary Vaynerchuk, he wrote a book and he marketed it. He treats it like a business. And because he treats it like a business, it gets known more. But just because more people know about the book doesn't mean it's the best book and it has the best advice to help you succeed. The people who are selling you books, of course they're biased and they'll tell you that their book is the best, but that's not always the case. Anyhow, while I'm eating this, I really just want to share with you some cool facts about S Truett Cathy and how he succeeded and how Chick Fil A was made. And some of these facts are pretty startling and shocking, and I think you'll enjoy it. And if you're still stuck around till now in this video, I just want to thank you, because I'm not really good with the highly edited hooking intros for my YouTube videos to just like hook you in and keep you watching. A lot of other people do it better, and I probably butchered the beginning, which probably made 90% of people drop off. But nonetheless, let's get started. Look at this waffle fry, it's huge. So I'm going to show some footage right now of me just in the Chick Fil A, and that speaks to my first amazing insight about Chick Fil A. So first, nowadays, Chick Fil A is a multi-billion-dollar private business. They chose not to go public on the stock exchange, which has its pros and cons. The pro is you have a lot of freedom. Con, not as much money that you can use to reinvest or grow your business. But arguably, you don't need that if you're doing well. Now, when I walk into Chick Fil A or see them, it just blows my mind, because so many hundreds of thousands, millions of people walk in every day, every which way. Again, if you're not living in America, you might not know about them well, but they're just killing it. Like, it's almost like Chipotle in a way. Maybe not as crowded as Chipotle, but still very crowded. Chipotle's kind of died down too, so arguably Chick-fil-A has been the long enduring leader next to McDonald's. And compared to McDonald's, they've had more people. So it just blows my mind, and each time I pass it now, I'm just like, wow, look at what you've accomplished, Truett. He's really done an incredible job building this thing from just the idea in his head. And there's a lot of other stories by billionaires that it really just blows my mind if you knew about them. Phil Knight, he actually released a book this year on that exact topic. It's called Shoe Dog, and it's how he grew Nike to what it is. And that's a story for another day. That book blew my mind. Anyhow, second cool fact. You know that logo on Chick-fil-A? The one that says Chick-fil-A, and you have the little two dots for the eyes of the chicken? You can see it here. And you can see it in this book right here. That brand has stood the test of time for over 50 years. He actually paid like a designer to design it, and it was his first brand logo. And he wasn't averse to changing it, but he ended up never having to. It just kind of worked. So that's pretty cool. Another cool fact. Why does Truett think that it's easier to succeed than to fail? Well, he's saying that it's not easy to succeed. But in this book, he actually says that it's easier to succeed than to fail. It's not easy, but it's easier. And what he means by that is that failure brings a lot of hardships. Failure, you don't have money, you can't take care of your kids, you can't invest in their education. If you fail, you have to try again to succeed. If you fail, you have to redo everything. And he's saying that success is a lot easier because you don't have to go through all that pain. if you succeed, you don't have to try again to achieve success again. Now, that's a very interesting counterintuitive argument. I mean, you could argue with the guy, but he's the billionaire. I'm not even, a millionaire yet. So that's another interesting part of the equation. Like maybe your thinking it should be different. Maybe you shouldn't think of success as this unattainable goal, or that is so tough that you should just remain in failure. Here's a really interesting fact. Let's talk about this burger here, the Chic Fil A sandwich. Now, this burger, it's not a burger, it's a chicken sandwich. This chicken sandwich, cool fact, was made through a lot of experimentation. Truett wanted to make a chicken sandwich that could rival the quality, the taste, as well as the speed of creation of a burger. And that required a lot of testing and work because you needed to find a method to cook this thing and have it taste good in a short amount of time. So he did all this stuff, cooked it, used different oils, baked it, and did a lot of stuff until he finally got it right. And that really just blew his door open, because once he got this right and he started testing it, it really took off. And as far as we know, he's one of, if not the first person to put a chicken between two buns. And I mean, the recipe has more or less remained the same, with the pickle, with the bread, and the chicken. Another cool fact. Why is it called Chic Fil A? Well, it's a chicken fillet. He actually was thinking about the name, and he realized that he could just do a little play on what it was. He really believed in this sandwich when no one else did. And he did that, and of course the name has stuck with the restaurant ever since. Another cool fact about Chick-fil-A and S Truett Cathy. He actually did a lot of things that are now becoming more modern and more accepted in the business world, especially from the startup community, because books have finally come out describing and detailing the process. And this guy, I don't know why, how, maybe he was just naturally entrepreneurial, but he picked it up on his own. And what I mean by that is he actually did a lot of what's called customer feedback, iteration and testing, and really getting honest customer feedback and just repeating the process over and over again until the product gets really good. He did that with this chicken sandwich. He didn't do it with some crazy sophisticated tech software. He simply cooked different variations of the sandwich, asked people for their honest feedback, what they liked, what they didn't like about the sandwich, and then kept, tweaking it until he got a sandwich that was really good. Now, that might seem like, oh, that's not too hard, I can think of that. But in the business world, I mean, you just have to watch the show Shark Tank to even get a taste of an idea. A lot of people don't do this. They just kind of like have an idea. They have a lot of bias and arrogance, overconfidence towards their idea being perfect. They're never really honest and humble enough to really go to the customer, who's the person who is going to decide whether to buy or not from you, and really get their feedback, see if they're actually going to buy it, and see if they can improve the product. Another cool fact about Truett. This man, he was really good at believing in himself and persisting when no one else thought he could succeed, and doing it in a practical way where he did it in a situation where he actually could succeed. So he recognized when to really believe in himself. And to give you a more concrete example of this, when he first came up with this chicken sandwich right here, being an entrepreneur was not a glamorous thing. 90% of those who started a business failed. And of course, people told him, you know, this is going to cost you a lot of money. Are you sure you want to get into this game? And you know what he said? He said, I believe in my chicken sandwich. And he did. He believed in it. He went through with it. And it didn't happen overnight. It was decades of work. But he grew this into a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And, of course, made a lot of money himself. Of course, what I like about people like him and many other billionaires like Warren Buffett is that it's definitely more than money. Success to him, success to many other successful people, John Templeton, Warren Buffett, it's irrespective of money. Warren Buffett, he cares more about the people who loved him, the people he wants to love him, actually love him. And Truett Cathy, of course, he was a very religious man, a Christian, and of course, he also cared about giving back to his community, forming foundations, and helping that community. By the way, I really like the sauces. If you've never been to Chick Fil A, try out their sauces. It's kind of like a Chick-fil-A like fan club, hidden secret type thing. Anyone who's been to Chick-fil-A a lot, and that's how I got introduced to this, they have ridiculous sauces. Polynesian, Chick-fil-A sauce. Try those with different combinations. You can get the spicy Chick-fil-A sandwich with honey mustard or Chick-fil-A sauce. Try that variation out. It's pretty good. Not healthy, but pretty good if you end up going. Again, I'm only eating this because, of course, I love it, but as a toast to Truett Cathy. I know it's not healthy, so I'm trying to cut back. Here's another cool fact about Chick-fil-A and Truett Cathy. He's made a lot of money, and when you look at the people who are on the top of the top in terms of wealth, Sam Walton, him, Warren Buffett, they really care a lot about their customers, and they're humble. I think that's the big thing. They're so humble to a point where it's kind of like wired into their genetics. When you think of someone rich, you think of that millionaire who like blows all his money, or the rapper or the singer who has made their first million and they're blowing it on fancy cars and showing it off to the world because on some genetic level they're doing it because they know it attracts girls to display your resources. But what I found with these people, these billionaires, even after they've made billions of dollars, they still like dress normal. They don't care about the money. They haven't bought anything expensive. I mean, Warren Buffett, he still lives in like a very modest house, like $50,000 house, very modest car, all this stuff. He cares more about saving and spending that money efficiently and the customer and running that business. He cares more about that business's success. He'll go in, sweep the floor, all that stuff. Same thing with Sam Walton and everyone else I mentioned. Sam, who's made hundreds of billions of dollars for himself and his family, this guy really, like, he was genetically wired to love his business. And so what I mean by that is like he was already like really rich, richest person in the US, and like all these magazines did a story on him. And yet he was still in his pickup truck, still driving the his competitors, kneeling on the floor, crawling on the floor of his competitors to measure aisle lengths. All this stuff that like I think really gets you ahead in business. I think spending excessively is probably one of the worst things you can do for a business. It's like, especially when you're starting out, why are you being so lavish with what you're spending on when you want to use it as efficiently as possible and reinvest that money to make more? I think about a year ago I did a video on Sam Walton, and this stranger commented on my video, and he was like, tell that to his greedy, good-for-nothing children. And unfortunately, that's how the internet and general public is. Of course, I'm not trying to attract those people because they're very narrow-minded, superficial, low intelligence. And the problem with that is it was clear this guy had never read Sam Walton's book. He had never met any of their children. And just because these children were really rich, he got jealous and hated on them. And so, just because someone's rich doesn't mean you should hate them. And that's one of the many limiting beliefs and mental blocks of that kind of prevent you from being rich. A lot of poor people hate rich people. And what ends up happening is that because they hate rich people, it subconsciously prevents themselves from becoming rich because they don't want to hate themselves. And you see all sorts of variations of this. And a lot of millionaires had to overcome these psychological beliefs or identify and root them out to become millionaires. Another common one is I can't become a millionaire because I hate millionaires who show off their fancy car. Or I hate millionaires because then I would be one of those guys who goes to fancy hotels, and those guys are douches. Well, first off, just because you're rich doesn't mean you have to go to a fancy hotel and spend that money. Second off, just because there's someone is showing off their fancy car doesn't mean that they're dicks or that they're douchebags. What if this guy busted his butt for 30 plus years working up for that car? So again, these assumptions are very negative, short-sighted, rude, and really block yourself from becoming successful. And a great book on this is The Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, and that's actually one of the examples in the book. T. Harv Eker, he was coaching a student, and the student was like, he was walking past like the entranceway to a hotel, and he saw this guy who was rich and showing off his fancy car. He was like, that guy's a complete asshole and dick. And T. Harv Eker, he's like, why? Just because he showed it off? You don't know this guy at all. He could have busted his butt for 40 plus years to get this car. And you're just assuming that he got it very quickly, or he cheated his way to it, or something else. You don't even know this guy. And you're also holding yourself back by breeding resentment towards what you partially want to become. Another great book on this is The Millionaire Next Door. It's a semi-scientific analysis of thousands of millionaires. And what they found was shocking. They found that 99% of millionaires don't show off their wealth, live very modestly, save, spend much more time learning about finances and investments, are very frugal with their money, and the average car of a millionaire is a pickup truck. And you're just like, what? How is this possible? And it turns out that 1% of millionaires, usually it's the singers and celebrities, but not always, that 1% of millionaires, they really skew the sample size by that minority group. They're the ones who kind of just go into the world and show off to everyone that they're rich to get more girls or just to show off. And because of that, the world as a whole thinks of these people as the dickheads, when in reality, the great majority of millionaires are actually those people who are behind the scenes, keeping a low profile, not dressed that much better. And that really blew my mind. So check out that book. Let me give you a review on Chick Fil A if you've never tried it. First off, my favorite way of eating it is dipping the chicken into Polynesian sauce. It's also called sweet and sour sauce, but it's unlike any type of sweet and sour sauce you have ever tasted. It's not like any of the Chinese food sweet and sour sauce. It's more just like a type of sweet, creamy, not creamy, but like sweet. It's strictly sweet. There's no sour in it. It's very sugary. And I would dip that into the sandwich. But a pro tip, never use Polynesian sauce with Sprite. I did that for years and it just messes with your brain. Like, I don't know why that combination screws with you, but it really does like upset your stomach and like gives you like a brain freeze, all sorts of crazy stuff. But it's good. It's good. Now, if you never tried this, let me just give you a review on like the texture. So the bread is always very it's firm, but as you can tell, it kind of like as soon as you bite down, it like compresses. So it's kind of like bouncy, but like compressive. And the bottom is slightly crispy. They crisp the bottom. They toast it. The chicken inside is pretty solid, as in when you bite down on it, there's definitely a lot of lean meat on there. But because there's the fried outside layer, there's a ton of texture and taste, so it doesn't taste dry or anything. Good. Yeah. And as far as the actual taste of the chicken, it does not take any level of effort to break it down. It doesn't melt in your mouth like something from McDonald's does. That food, I don't even know why it melts so quickly, but it maintains its shape for a small bit. So it's slightly harder than the McDonald's stuff. As far as the waffle fries, another staple, incredible stuff. Crunchy, but not too crunchy. Pretty much tastes like fries. There's different variations of fries, so I would equate them to the Burger King fries, but in waffle form. Personally, I like the Burger King ones more, just because they're more crispy. But if I had to think of a brand that these came closest to in terms of taste and texture, I'd go with Burger King. I think the difference is that they do get a bit soggy and not too much, but it's easier to bite into them. There's much more potato, and it actually tastes like potato in the center, but not too much. Final fact about S Truett Cathy, and I'll call it a day. This man, and this one didn't come from the book, so I don't know if it's true or false. But on his deathbed, he had 3 wishes for the business. 1, never change the original recipe. 2, can you guess what number 2 is? Always stay closed on Sundays. And then 3, can you guess what it is? The waffle fries might stay must stay Waffle Fries. No, that's not the third one. The third one is that never sell burgers. And when you think about it, as a businessman, if this is true, it makes complete sense, because there's so many different things that he could have said to change or keep, but at its core, he wanted to keep what made Chic Fil A Chic Fil A, what made Chic Fil A stand out from the rest. And at its core, when you boil it down, they are never open on Sundays. And that's huge, because they compete with all the other big fast food restaurants who are open 24/7 and definitely open on Sundays. So for them to do that, they lose a lot of money, but for whatever reason, they make it back. The second thing, as far as the whole original recipe thing, again, maybe they're thinking about how back when Kroc tried to change it and it was a huge mess. Well, maybe it's just like something that he knows it's like the core of what makes Chic Fil A Chic Fil A. And then the last thing would just be that whole thing of not selling burgers. That's actually like their whole model. It's eat more chicken. And then it's like this cow that's pretty much telling you like to eat more chicken because he doesn't want to die. So that whole concept kind of works together. Usually I can crush this in like 10 seconds. Perhaps it's because I have to talk it through and eat slower while I'm doing this video, but I feel a lot fuller. And that's actually an actual hack. There's this book called 50 Secrets of the Longest Living People. And one of the secrets in there is chew slower. You become more full, you digest the food better, and you feel more full while eating slower because you're chewing more. Random fact. When Truett was deciding and coming up with the Chic Fil A sandwich, his choice of chicken over beef was not completely random. He realized that chicken was affordable, cheap, delicious, in high demand, easy to make, easy to store, and so forth. So it was a practical decision as well. It wasn't just like random. There's logic behind it. And in many ways, it's better than beef in terms of how long it takes to rear the cow, kill the cow, transport the dead cow, you know, all that stuff, and the cost it takes. Thinking about Truett and the chicken sandwich made me think about the book Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc, which is interesting because they're making a movie based on the book on how Ray Kroc started and grew McDonald's. But cool fact about Ray Kroc's book. Well, two cool facts. First one, in the book, he actually details how he came up with some of the staples of the McDonald's menu. This was still at a time when McDonald's was not as big as it is now, or even close to it, when he wrote that book. But it's just very interesting seeing it from that perspective. He actually, goes through the details of how he came up with the Filet-O-Fish, and how he came up with this other burger that had pineapples in it that he thought would be a huge success, but it wasn't. And you just kind of realize that like these giants, these